German fighters approached with total confidence until they faced something they had never seen in the sky before. 16 American machine guns blazing in all directions, shredding the air so violently that pilots said it looked like flying straight into a hurricane made of fire. But even the most heavily armed bomber in the world had a weakness, and when it appeared, the Luftwaffe struck with brutal precision. At the start of World War II, Germany dominated the skies over Europe. The Luftwaffe's fighter force was fast, aggressive, and commanded by pilots who had sharpened their skills in Spain, Poland, and France. Against this air power, most bombers stood little chance. The British learned this during the 1940 Blitz, so when the United States entered the war, it brought with it a new idea. A bomber that could defend itself not just with a few guns, but with a fortress of firepower. The Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress was born from this vision, an aircraft bristling with guns in nearly every direction. In theory, it could fight its way to the target, drop its bombs, and fight its way home. No escorts required. Many military planners loved this idea. German pilots, however, dismissed the B-17 as an overbuilt target. They believed their fighters would simply swarm it, just as they had done to slower Allied bombers earlier in the war. But that confidence began to crack the first time they saw a full B-17 formation in combat. It was August 17, 1943, one of the most ambitious missions of the war. Hundreds of flying fortresses lifted off from England, engines growling in perfect harmony. Their target was deep inside Germany, the aircraft factories at Regensburg and the ball-bearing plants at Schweinfurt. Destroying these would cripple German aircraft production. As the bombers crossed the Dutch coastline, German radar operators watching their screens were stunned. They had never seen such a massive formation flying this tightly, this aggressively, directly into the heart of the Reich. At 11:52 a.m., the first wave of Luftwaffe fighters reached altitude. Squadron after squadron launched, climbing rapidly. Bf-109s, FW-190s, and specialized heavy fighters like the Bf-110 and Ru-88 equipped with rockets and 20mm cannons. Their plan was simple: hit the bombers head-on, break up their formation, and then finish off the stragglers. The German pilots closed fast, but as they approached, something unexpected happened. They saw not 2 or 4 guns firing but a blinding flash of dozens of concentrated bursts. Nose guns, cheek guns, top turret guns, chin turret guns. At least 6 gunners could fire forward at once. The Luftwaffe pilots had never seen such overlapping arcs of fire before. One pilot later wrote that flying toward a B-17 formation felt like charging into the mouth of a dragon. The first attack run went disastrously. German fighters were shredded before they reached firing position. Engines disintegrated, wings snapped, pilots bailed out. Those who survived pulled off and regrouped, stunned by the level of defensive fire. But the Germans adapted quickly. They shifted tactics from frontal assaults to coordinated group attacks from multiple angles. They tried weaving attacks, climbing attacks, and even rocket attacks. The Luftwaffe was determined to crack the fortress wall. What followed over the next hour was one of the most brutal air battles of the war. A continuous cycle of attacks, each one tactically adjusted. The B-17 crews fought back relentlessly. Gunners shouted bearings. Shells clattered on the floor as ammunition belts burned through. The tail gunner had perhaps the most critical job, calling out every incoming fighter before it was visible to the others. Yet even with all this firepower, the B-17s had a vulnerability. They were only strong when they remained in formation. And the moment one bomber drifted back even by a few hundred feet, the Luftwaffe pounced like predators sensing an injured animal. At 12:19 p.m., one B-17 from the 100th Bomb Group began to fall behind. It had taken a direct hit from flak. Its NO2 engine was coughing smoke. Slowly, painfully slowly, the bomber began to lose speed. Its comrades could not slow down to match it. Doing so would expose the entire formation. So the pilots watched in grim silence as the wounded aircraft drifted backward into the open sky. The Germans saw it instantly. More than a dozen fighters broke off and headed toward the lone bomber. The B-17 crew knew they were in for a fight they probably could not win. The tail gunner opened fire first, sending a stream of tracers toward the approaching 109s. The Germans split into 2 groups, one attacking from above and behind, the other from below the fuselage, the bomber's blind spot. The first pass tore through the horizontal stabilizer. The second pass shredded the right waist gun position. The radio operator was hit. Smoke filled the fuselage, yet the crew continued fighting. The top turret swiveled left and right, firing at every shadow. For a moment, it seemed possible they might drive the enemy away. But then a Focke-Wulf 190 made a low belly attack. It slipped underneath the bomber where no gun could reach, and fired upward into the bomb bay. The blast ripped through the fuel lines. Flames erupted instantly. The crew had seconds to escape. One by one, parachutes burst open as the plane pitched downward into a spiral. Moments later, the bomber exploded in midair. That scene would repeat many times throughout the war. A B-17 in formation was nearly unstoppable. A B-17 alone was a target. Over the next year, the battle strategies of both sides continued evolving. The Luftwaffe developed specialized weapons designed specifically to break bomber formations. They used air-to-air rockets, Schridtmusik upward-firing cannons, and armored head-on attack aircraft. The Americans responded with new defensive tactics and more powerful .50 caliber guns. As 1943 approached its end, the Luftwaffe had a new problem: fatigue. German pilots were flying multiple missions per day with no rest. Fuel shortages meant less training for replacements. Meanwhile, the Americans increased bomber production and rotated fresh crews into combat. Then came a decisive shift. The arrival of the P-51 Mustang in late 1943 changed everything. With drop tanks, the Mustang could escort B-17s all the way to Germany and back. Suddenly, German fighters could no longer attack at will. Every time they moved in, a pack of Mustangs tore through their formations, forcing them into defensive maneuvers. When the Mustangs joined the fight, the B-17s could maintain formation longer, which meant fewer stragglers, fewer isolated aircraft, fewer wolves circling wounded prey. For the first time in the war, the flying fortress had an actual fortress around it. By early 1944, American bombing raids were relentless. Factories, refineries, rail yards, and aircraft production lines were hit repeatedly. The Luftwaffe suffered catastrophic pilot losses. The training pipeline collapsed. Germany struggled to replace veterans with inexperienced rookies flying lethal missions. Through all of this, the B-17 crews endured unimaginable hardship. They battled temperatures of -40 degrees, frostbite, hypoxia, flak bursts that shredded aluminum like paper. They watched friends fall burning from the sky. Yet they returned to the air again and again. As the war moved toward 1945, German pilots spoke with respect and sometimes dread of the flying fortress. They knew its weaknesses and exploited them whenever possible. But they also recognized its terrifying strength when flown in formation. Many Luftwaffe veterans admitted that the B-17 was the most challenging opponent they had ever faced. Not because it was fast, not because it was maneuverable, but because it could fight back with 16 guns at once. In the end, the B-17s helped wear down the Luftwaffe until it could no longer protect German industry or cities. With the skies controlled by the Allies, the ground war became unwinnable for Germany. And so the story of the Flying Fortress is not simply one of firepower. It is a story of teamwork of dozens of aircraft working as one unit. Alone, the bomber was vulnerable, but together, they were nearly unstoppable. And that leaves a question for you. If you were in the turret of a B-17 with enemy fighters diving toward you, would you trust the power of your 16 guns, or the strength of your formation? Don't forget to like, share, and hit the subscription button on our channel for more word to history like this.